Alrighty, we are back with a brand new series, and this time I'm focusing more on doing some quality blitz game analysis versus quantity blitz game analysis. And in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at 3 games that I played, and these are lines that are already hinting at my upcoming English repertoire that's going to be published on Chessable. I have really been enjoying the process, doing serious work on that repertoire. Even got a new machine that can really, I'm telling you, that i7 12 chip, it hits. Anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this in, and we are going to be looking at some Slav games. And I like surprise value, and typically in my text I have multiple systems offered, and this is going to be one of the systems, and it's a particular move order that I have the privilege of seeing so many games and working with Grandmaster Turazaga when he was on the Miami Champions team for the entire length of our stint in the Chess.com Pro League. He likes this particular move order, and the first game that we're going to take a look at is with an early sideline with Bishop G4. So the typical move that you're going to get here most of the time is going to be with E6, and we're going to have 2 games in that realm, and also get G6 as well as the Chebanenko with A6. Those are the most frequently occurring, but generally, when you face these sidelines, a good rule is I can capture, and then this is kind of a neo exchange Slav, but things can get bad quite quickly for black with Bishop F5 or Bishop G4 after C takes, and then the space left behind move with Queen B3. Now we're already pressuring the center, and my opponent goes wrong immediately here, Queen B6, and we have, at this point, a pawn in hand. And technique is a very important thing. So we have a ugly pawn structure, but it's flexible, and we've got the bishop pairs. So what do bishop pairs excel at? Working in the open position. So let's see how we can get the most out of this. So after knight c6, first I have to question, what is the best square for this bishop, as this bishop currently isn't working, and we're not going to be able to play b3, so definitely d4 at some point, and bishop d2 is how that bishop's getting out. I like the rook being on the open file. He's doing work there. This rook is potentially coming to the other open file. So candidate moves when you're looking at these types of positions. And I like pressure and tension. So bishop b5 immediately. I think a secondary choice could definitely be Rook G1 to try to tether the bishop. But then after King D7, now I'm going to combine ideas and get what I was already looking for. I want this bishop to get to D2. So as I'm playing D4, Bishop D2 is the main idea, but we've got the subtle threat of D5 due to the pin, and A6 doesn't quite suffice because the bishop can't be captured because of the rook on A8. Bishop B4 check. Sure, my bishop wasn't doing anything. Let's go ahead and get that off the board. And now on A6, because the bishop has been moved out, the rook is defended by its counterpart. So I decide to just go ahead into this rook and pawn ending where I have a pawn in hand. So if during this process we're able to get rid of double pawns for healthy ones, that's typically what we're looking to do, but we are going to improve the position of our rooks and ideally invade on the 7th rank. So let's go ahead and start with rook AC1 and then rook C4. Not going to lose space, and rook HC1. Potentially, it would have been better to play B4 here immediately. So if takes, we're having the fixed pawn structure, play B4, and then pressure that weakling. But rook HC1 follows right along with my plan in the position. Go B4 there, And it's becoming clear that after g6, my opponent's just defending. He's going to play f5. So let's go ahead and get a piece of the center and improve. We don't want the pawn mass to go too much further. So h4, king f4. And this was one of the few inaccuracies I had in the game. Which pawn should we push in the center? And I've kind of optimized my position. I'm now going to need to make changes. I can't do anything else, any more slow improving moves. So in the main game, I played e5, which forces matters. But I do believe when analyzing after the fact that d5 is even stronger because it's hard to defend everything once I just go simply rook c6. And slow, steady improvement. e5 does force things, but I'm not pitching too much of an advantage here as it's kicking the king back. And now I have the ability to get rid of a double pawn, which we were looking to do. And it's not obvious how black is going to be able to get counterplay by reaching any of the base pawns that are weak. So rook a8, check. Rook d6. Nothing doing. Not taking the pawn first, but testing to see if he'll go backwards, further away from the action. Now, testing the opponent, some people see it as wasting a move, but you'll often see this in longer time control games with increment. If you can repeat moves, you typically want to do it quickly in order to get more thinking time. So testing is typically good technique, especially in endings. So my opponent's finally getting some counterplay, looking to go after the h-pawn, but after rook d4, I can give you that one because I got a runner that is supported. Rooks are meant to go behind passed pawns just for this reason. And now our rook has more than enough time to stop the outside passer, and as a second queen is coming and this rook can sack for that pawn, the game is over. So let's go to game number 2, and we're going to come back. And this time e6, the most popular move. And different than the main line e3 Slavs that were recommended so many years ago in the Grandmaster Repertoire series by Rook, this is a more flexible move order, and with flexible move orders, you have more ideas to choose from and more surprise value for the very, very solid Slav player. So queen c2. Notice we are holding back on the d4 pawn. So let's see why. Our stems at this point is right at this moment. Bishop d6 versus bishop e7. So bishop d6. We'll start with first. We're going to continue our development. And now here is that key interesting move. Rook G1. And we are looking to play G4 and be aggressive. We do not do this against bishop E7. The main reason why is if the natural plan E5 is played, we're able to tempo the bishop that is on D6 with knight B5, and white's doing pretty well here in this annoying position. Rook takes, and my opponent fell apart quite quickly after bishop d3. He had already had enough in this game and resigned. So let's look at bishop e7. So what do you do if rook g1 is not going to be the plan? You go back to the solid stuff where bishop e7 is not aggressive. It's not the most optimal move. Bishop d3. And the goal is going to be pretty simple for white. I want a castle, and I want to optimize my pieces. And typically that means putting the queen back on e2, put the rooks on d1 and c1, and then dropping the bishop back to b1 and potentially going queen d3, or playing for an e4 plan that upon liquidation, our queen is lined up with the bishop. So once we set the general structure, then we're looking for the long-term piece placement. I've had a lot of that today. Sorry about that. So castles, rook c8. Now, this is a good time to move the queen, as c5 is the only plan for black in the position that makes sense. So we're just going to move the queen off of the x-ray of that rook on c8. Let's clip here first. And I always like these situations where there are 3 options for the opponent to capture back, because normally they are going to choose incorrectly. Here, I think pawn captures is objectively the best move, where heading to the hanging pawns position, that's going to be the way to go. But my opponent took with the knight, and then with the bishop. And then the problem with taking with the bishop is you did not maintain a pawn in the center. That gives me the opportunity to fight in the center. And now it definitely resembles more of a Sicilian position than it does, say, a Slav. Knight b5, where are you going? And then e5. The best defender has gone away. That means my attack is going to come. And then also, this e5 pawn is a bone in the throat. It's very difficult to hold everything. Knight c5 was played. I'm not interested in giving you that bishop, no. And after rook fd8, there are big problems for black here. After knight d6, white to play. Hopefully you see it. Queen e5, where very simple double attack, threatening checkmate, as well as winning the rook. And my opponent had had enough, and that's going to be enough for this video. Is a sneak peek on upcoming content within my English course that's going to be on Chessable.